Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of The Conversation. And in today's video, we're going to be asking the question, can Giannis Antetokounmpo be as dominant as Shaquille O'Neal was during his playing career? So that's what I want to get into in this video today. So before we get into that, make sure you guys go ahead and hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So make sure you guys do that and don't forget to hit the notification bell. So let's get straight into the topic. I think it's a really good question because a lot of people seem to compare Giannis to Shaq as a modern day Shaq because of how he plays, how dominant he is, and just his whole approach to the game. And even Shaquille O'Neal has sort of passed on the Superman title to him and say he's the current Superman. You know, Shaq really coveted that title as being Superman. And in fact, he had a back and forth kind of spat with Dwight Howard because Dwight Howard was saying he's Superman and Shaq didn't really take a liking to Dwight Howard calling himself Superman. But anyway, Shaq, you know, really enjoyed the way Giannis approached the game, and for good reason. I mean, the guy, he's already won a regular season MVP award in 2019. He's been a four-time All-Star. He's been on three All-NBA teams. He's been on a defensive team, first, second team. So he's been on two all-defensive teams. And he also won the Most Improved Player of the Year award once in his career. Now, if we look at Giannis throughout his career is someone that has consistently gotten better and better over time. I mean, when he came into the league, the dude was averaging 6.8 points a game. Then the next season, he averaged 12.7. Then he averaged 17. Then he went up to 23. Then he went up to 27. Now he's at 20. Then he went again up to 27.7. And now he's averaging 29.6 points a game, 13.7 rebounds, and 5.8 assists. So Giannis is playing like a beast, and he's doing all of this in 30 minutes a game, which is astonishing. He shoots 55% from the field. At least that's what he's shooting this season. He's shooting 30% from the three-point line, 63% from the free throw line. But the dude is getting you one steal and one block a game to go along with those beast mode numbers that he's putting up. Now, Shaq, we all know who Shaq was, but for those of you who don't know or have been under a rock and may not be aware of all of the accomplishments that Shaq has, Shaq is a four-time NBA champion. He's been a three times finals MVP back to back to back. So from the year 2000 to 2002, Shaquille O'Neal was the finals MVP, and a lot of people consider him to be the most dominant basketball player, at least in the modern era, to ever play basketball. He won a regular season MVP award in the year 2000. He's been a 15-time All-Star. He led the league in scoring, believe it or not, two times in 1995 and in 2000, which incidentally is the same. I mean, he led the league in scoring just as much as Kobe Bryant. Now, if we look at Shaq's playing career, he averaged 23.7 points a game, 10.9 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. But Shaq kind of bounced around a lot towards the end of his career. He ended up playing with the Phoenix Suns, and he played with the Boston Celtics. Then he played with the Cleveland Cavaliers. But the last time he was with, he was with the Lakers, for instance. If we look at the year when he was winning those championships in the year 2000 to 2001, Shaq averaged, it was unbelievable. Shaq was playing 39.5 minutes a game at his size. Shaq was 7'1", 330 pounds. So he was playing those type of minutes. He got you 27 points a game, which is absurd. He got you 10.7 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and the dude was getting you, he was getting you 3 assists, and he was getting you almost 3 blocks a game or 2.8 blocks a game. So Shaq was absolutely dominant as a basketball player. But for me to really look at Shaq and compare him to Giannis Antetokounmpo, we have to look at the way these guys dominated in the paint, and specifically on the basketball court. So if we look at Giannis shoots between, shooting from 5 feet and in, Giannis shoots 71%. At least we're going to look at him this season. From 5 to 9 feet out, he shoots 35.5. Then from 10 to 14 feet, he shoots 42%. From 15 to 19 feet, he shoots 40%. From 20 to 24 feet, Giannis is actually shooting 45%. And from 25 to 29 feet out, Giannis is shooting 29%, which is pretty if you look at it. Now, if you look at Shaq, Shaq has similar numbers to that, Shaq also shoots a very high percentage in the paint, and that's just part of his game. I mean, Shaq was a very dominant big man shooting in the paint, and a lot of people compare the way Shaq and Giannis Antetokounmpo play if we're talking about physicality, because Shaq was what you would call a brute. He was a brute. He was a brute force, and he would just literally run through people in the paint. But I think the fundamental difference between these two players, why I would still say that Shaq is more dominant than Giannis Antetokounmpo, is his weight. Okay, Giannis is 6'11" and he weighs 240 pounds. When Shaq was playing, Shaq was about 7'1", and as I said before, 325 to 330 pounds. The weight difference alone is a major difference. That plays a very big role, and I'll tell you why. Because of Shaq being so physical, but also being so heavy, the type of people that you would need to be able to affect him would be centers, and that's the reason why teams would need to carry at least 2 to 3 centers just to use up their fouls on Shaq. You needed to have centers on your team to be able to use up those fouls, because if you're thinking of using your guards, Shaq would literally just demolish your entire team. If you tried to switch on him, he would destroy you. And no one made a better point explaining this than Richard Jefferson. So I want you guys to take a listen to Richard Jefferson explaining why, Shaq would dominate the Golden State Warriors, even with Kevin Durant on it. So just take a listen to Richard Jefferson talking about that.
Let me ask you this. What sets that Laker team apart from those other great teams you saw?
Now, I obviously the Spurs team was great with the Twin Towers and David Robinson and Tim Duncan, and then the Warriors team with Kevin Durant. The one thing, and obviously Shaq is the one person. A lot of times when you watch the Golden State Warriors and you watch how they play that small ball defense, they'll do what you call a triple switch. So they'll switch Steph onto a bigger player, and then when that player rolls into the post, they will then switch out. They will switch Draymond, or they will switch KD, or they would switch Harrison Barnes, whoever it was. They would switch a bigger player onto that post player and then put Steph back out to the perimeter. This is the issue with that. That amazing defense that works so well because there aren't dominant post presences anymore.
I know where you're going.
Not nearly as much. You weren't going to be able to do that. They were going to throw that ball into Shaq. He was going to catch it and dunk it. And one thing that Shaq made you do, he made you carry 2, if not 3 bigs on your roster, because you needed those fouls. You needed those big bodies because he was so dominant. So then what does that do? That shortens your ability to play small ball. It shortens your ability to play small ball because you got to have 2 or 3 bigs on your roster. There isn't carry 1, 1.5. This D'Antoni situation would have never worked. PJ Tucker would have quit before having to guard Shaq in a 7-game series. So that's why, to me, that is the best team that I've ever played against. It's the best team that I've seen. Now, the 17 Warriors with Kevin Durant was very, very close. But ultimately, I still need to see something that would have told me that they would have had a game plan for Shaq.
Now, there you can see clearly, you can hear clearly what made Shaq such a dominant force. And Richard Jefferson played against Shaquille O'Neal in the NBA Finals when he was with the New Jersey Nets with Kenyon Martin and Hall of Famer Jason Kidd. So he has a first-hand experience of going up against Shaq. Shaq's only real weakness was his free throw shooting. Shaquille O'Neal, for his career, he just didn't shoot very well from the free throw line. Usually he was about 50% from the free throw line. Now Giannis shoots a higher percentage, but is not much better. Giannis Antetokounmpo is not a 70% free throw shooter. Now, the other thing, let's say the advantage that Giannis has over Shaq is that Giannis doesn't need somebody to give him the ball. Giannis can bring the ball up the court. He can facilitate the offense, and in a lot of cases, they run the offense through him from the top of the key. Whereas Shaq, in order for Shaq, you could actually take him out the game, and you can take him out of the game. Really, his own teammate can take him out of the game because all they would have to do is just not throw him the ball or try to front the post or whatever it is, or put 2 guys on him, which will obviously leave open shooters, because if you put 2 on one person, somebody's going to be open. But Shaq, in a way, you could take Shaq out of the game if you don't throw him the ball, as opposed to Giannis. Giannis doesn't need somebody to throw him the ball or give him the ball for him to be able to be effective on the basketball court. So these are the kind of, pros and cons of the two players. But if I had to decide who was a more dominant player, obviously I'm going to go with Shaq. Now, can Giannis be as dominant as Shaq? I think dominance also comes with winning, because Shaq was not just a physically imposing force on the basketball court, but he also won championships, and championships plays a role when people look at you as far as being dominant. In the fashion that Shaq did it, because Shaq won back to back to back. He did it in a three-peat, and Giannis is yet to win an NBA championship. So if the question is, can Giannis be as dominant as Shaq? I think if we ask the question right now, no. Can he be as dominant as he is as a physical presence? I think the answer is no, even though in this league, he's probably the most dominant basketball player currently playing in basketball right now. But for me to really put Giannis in that same breath with Shaq as far as dominance, he would have to win at least 2 NBA championships, and he would have to be the finals MVP of those teams for me to really say that Giannis can really be, you can hold him in the same regard as Shaquille O'Neal when we're talking about dominance. So what I want to know from you guys is, do you agree with me? Do you think Giannis can be, or not even agree, just what do you guys think? Do you think Giannis Antetokounmpo can be as dominant as Shaquille O'Neal? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our hot content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day.